We move on to the conversation number 2, and this is a horrifying story that's really come in from our national capital, not the first, just in the recent past. But here is a story where a 17-year-old took his uncle's car and went for a joyride. What happened then was a family of 6 with little children who were out in the road going about their normal activities, crossing a road, got run over by this teenager driving this car. An 8-year-old and a 5-year-old were mowed down along with their uncle and their 6-year-old brother. The brother's condition is serious. The 6-year-old child is now fighting for his life at the AIIMS Trauma Center. This teenager, a class 12 student who was driving a car registered in his uncle's name, has now been picked up by the police. They're now trying to figure whether his parents should be held accountable or his uncle, owner of the car, or the legal guardian in the case of a juvenile. But viewers, this is just one of the many instances that have happened in the recent past. There is this growing trend of youngsters, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, without any license, without any training, underage, just taking off for a spin, maybe because they think it's cool, breaking the law and risking the lives of others. This needs to stop. This needs to be picked up as a sustained campaign until we figure out stricter rules, stricter policing on the roads of our cities, especially in the NCR region. Let's say good evening to 2 panelists who are joining us right now, Mr. Neeraj Kumar, former Commissioner of the Delhi Police, and Shilpa Mittal. Shilpa lost her brother in one such instance. She fought for justice for her brother. It was a case where, again, like many other cases in our country, it was up to the victim's family to take it up and to ensure that justice is done. But Shilpa, since then to now, the cases and the menace of the underage driving has only increased. Why, in your experience, why is that happening?
See, I think because there are two main things which are at fault. One is the society, because obviously the society is the one who's giving them the car. The government is obviously not driving the car. No, it's the society and the parents and everybody who's giving the car. And secondly, it's the system. Because what happened in our case, that we are actually not trying to just run, and tell the people that how to do their job. But the problem is when Nirbhaya happened, they came up with Section 15, and in a hurry, they have left 80 sections out of that juvenile to be tried as an adult, which is the heinous. Now, just because of one word, what has happened is they have left 80 section out. Now, what is happening is because of that, people are going to get away with all these accidents because 304 is not going to be applied in it. Now, I personally want to ask the government, the parliament and everybody that even though Supreme Court has made a judgment that there is a fault and there are a lot of sections which have been left out. Now, I don't know who has done it, the bureaucrats, the government. I think everybody is responsible because they have not even cross-checked. And it is not about the sitting government or the opposition. Both are there. And it took them 5 years to even acknowledge that there is a flaw in the law. So I am really disturbed that what are the people, those who are supposed to serve the country, are doing. Because definitely the society is not at all taking a responsibility for being a fair citizen. But at least the law should step in and step up, in fact. But what is happening is now since January...
Well, there is certainly a blame.
Sorry.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Finish your point. Go ahead, Shilpa. Finish your point. Since January, you were saying something.
Yeah, so since January, when my Supreme Court order came out, the Supreme Court actually instructed the welfare of women and child, the parliament, the ministers, the law and orders, everybody, and especially the people who actually made this juvenile laws. The amendment in the Section 15 where the juvenile has to be tried for a heinous crime as an adult. Now, if you're leaving all that sections out, how are you giving justice to the people? Now ask me. I have been a victim, but ask the parents if they would have taken an action, the government and the system and the parliament and all the MPs, the 500 or 700 MPs that we have, if they would have actually acted upon it, today we wouldn't be sitting here and discussing this, because there was a law to protect, the victim and give them justice. Now we are, after 5 years, sitting in the same place asking for justice, because obviously the government and the legislature is not giving us that. So I think the system is absolutely, it's not even the error I would call. Like, nobody even noticed there is a flaw. There is not even a flaw. It's an error. It's a major error, leaving 80 sections out. What were all the bureaucrats and all the people, those who are making law, were thinking? And why couldn't they recheck? And if there is a flaw, which thankfully it took me to get there and ask the Supreme Court to at least address the issue, and people are still not taking an action, I want to actually blame the person who has that file right now. And the parliament itself.
Right.
I mean, what
right.
are you guys doing?
You're absolutely right. I think there are two parts to this. One is the society, one is those parents, those uncles and aunts, or whoever, who allow their youngsters, teenagers, to go on for such, drives or rides without proper driving skills or training, and they're breaking the law. Consciously they do that, and they gift these expensive cars, buy it in their own name, and then give it to their children, and it happens, it's happening in more and more cities now. The other aspect, of course, is the law and the way it gets implemented, how it's always a fight for the victim's family, never for the person who's actually broken the law. It's the easiest for them. At every step it becomes a fight. So people think it's easy to get away. What will happen? Kya hi hoga? थोड़े से पैसे दे देंगे और निकल जाएंगे. Let me actually then just state some obvious things here. These are the statistics. Between 2013 and 2018, underage driving cases went up 589%. 589% in the national capital. 178 challans were filed in 213. They went up to 1228 challans in 2018, and then more in 2019. Up to February, it's just become worse. And that's the whole point. Now let me, before I go across to Mr. Neeraj Kumar, I just want to tell this specific story as well, because here is a story of a family that stopped to refill fuel in the car. This happened in Model Town. So the three little children, aged 5, 6 and 8, were walking with their uncle towards a close by eatery to get some food. They were crossing the road. That's when this car came speeding by, 17-year-old, and rammed into them. Both the sisters died. The 6-year-old brother fights for his life. And I'm not really going to put the entire blame on the 17-year-old. The blame is also on his parents and his uncle, who allowed him to do this. Mr. Neeraj Kumar, 589% jump in underage driving cases in the national capital in over a period of 5 to 6 years is a lot. What's going wrong to your mind?
See, I'll put the blame squarely at the doorstep of the parents, because it is they who are not taking due caution. And as you know, Tanvi, the laws hold the parents entirely responsible for such incidents. In this case, if it is the uncle's car, it is the uncle who will have to face the music, and he will have to go to jail. He will have to be arrested, because that is what the law is. Section 199A of the Motor Vehicles Act makes it amply clear that if an underage person is driving a car, then his ward or his guardian or the owner of the car is the person who is responsible for any rash or negligent driving. And in this incident, we have lost 2 little children, and there can't be a more reprehensible incident than this. So the solution lies with the parents, who should exercise caution. And I think if an example is made out of this Model Town incident, then it will go a long way in conveying this message. As you know, that 589%
Yes, in
increase
fact,
in-
just let me just. Correct. If I can just, Mr. Neeraj Kumar, just quote that law, and come back to you, the section 199A that you were referring to, where it says the guardian of the juvenile or owner of the vehicle shall be deemed to be guilty of the contravention unless he can definitely verify that the offence was committed without his knowledge or that he exercised all due diligence. Does this then make it easier for people to get away? I mean, how do you prove that you actually knew about it and you still let it happen?
the onus shall lie on the guardian or on the owner of the car. It is for him to prove that he did not know. So it is, the burden of proof is entirely with him. And I'm sure the police make an example out of this case, which will go a long way in conveying the message that people who own cars have to be very vigilant. They can't allow underage people to drive those cars. And if they do, then they will have to reap the consequences should the minor meet with an accident.
Okay, but I also have Shilpa here, and Shilpa's gone through this experience, a horrifying accident where Siddharth, her brother, was a victim, and Shilpa, while we lost the connection with you, Mr. Neeraj Kumar, was mentioning how even the system doesn't help. That even the police isn't interested in putting the strictest of the sections in doing a speedy job and a fair job of this entire case. That even there, when it comes to implementation of law, it usually is a tough task for the victim side, not the accused.
Yes, absolutely. I think the system absolutely lacks empathy towards the victim. So first you are the victim of the incident, and then you're the victim of the system. And it keeps happening. Now, I would like to just put this across that in our case, also the father got arrested. The mother is also in the charge sheet. And the driver that the parents had sent to the police station saying that he was driving the car is also under, in that court case. But it did not change anything. See, the people are still giving their kids the car. People are still doing
Correct.
that. But I think it is happening because they know that in my case also, it's been 5 years, I've been screaming my lungs out to correct the law, to correct the system, but nothing is happening. I have gone to the highest court in the country and all they gave me was sorry. Sorry, there is a flaw in the law. So I don't need a sorry. A sorry doesn't make a dead man alive. The government has to step up. Now, there are 20 laws that the government says we have passed, but what about the pending laws? Come on, I mean, how lame and how shining India are we getting? I mean, what kind of a shining India are we? Where we can't even give the justice. And it's common sense to a common citizen that you can't give justice. Like a kid is driving a car, you give them a stricter punishment to the family and everybody. But here what happens, you get into the loop. You are going through the police, you are going through the lawyers, you are going through the courts and Tariq pe Tariq. That's all you get. I am only getting dates. And thankfully, I had a support system where I could fight till the end of the courts. But how many people can do it and why should people do it? I mean, we are not here as a victim throughout our life. The system was supposed to help us out, but it is not helping us out. We are actually victimized by the government because
Shilpa, I have always...
Sorry.
Since I have known you and since your loss and when you decided to pick up this fight, I've always admired the way you haven't given up and at every step you have fought on irrespective of what hurdles came in. I hope Mr. Neeraj Kumar is right that in this case there is an example that is set by doing the right thing, by making about the right changes. And I think consciously all of us need to start speaking a little bit more about this, make it a campaign. The menace of underage driving doesn't even get talked about so much. But look at the number of cases and the way it's risen. Now, it could also be, tighter policing where at least they're registering cases and acknowledging that this is happening. Or it could just be more and more examples of 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds who get access to big fancy cars and their parents don't say anything, their uncles are interested in spoiling them. We don't know. But it's happening more and more in Gurgaon, in Noida, Greater Noida, Delhi, many of the other big cities, especially in North India. And we need to start talking about a clampdown on such cases. People, citizens, you and I have to become a lot more conscious and responsible. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.